Hi, happy Thanksgiving and welcome to Simply Country Cuisine, and I'm Susie. Well, what we're going to make today is I'm doing prep work for Thanksgiving. It's only taken me 35 years to realize if I do things in advance, I'm not so exhausted and I can actually enjoy my family and friends on Thanksgiving Day. So what we're going to make today, and this is my daughter Jamie's recipe. She tried to explain it to me a couple times, and every time I've made it, it just didn't I just wasn't happy with it. It's a crockpot stuffing, or actually dressing. But what I was forgetting to do was do the bake off of it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually do the crockpot part, and I'll show you how to get it in the casserole. And then on Thursday, on Thanksgiving morning, I will put it in the oven and bake it off, and then it gives it the nice crusty top, and it'll dry some of the moisture out of it, because when you're making dressing, it's got to be very wet, because it cooks for a period of time. Now, I don't prefer stuffing. It's the same thing. Dressing and stuffing are the same, but I don't prefer to stuff the bird. I am very anxious about poultry, and there's been horror stories told that because of the stuffing inside the turkey, it leaves some raw spots and people get, salmonella or botulism or whatever you get from eating raw bird. Dead probably, I don't know what it is. But so we've grown up in a family in the South, and what we do is we just make our stuffing on the outside, and then it's just called dressing. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I have my 10-inch skillet, iron skillet, and I have here 2 long stalks of washed and finely diced itty bitties celery, and a medium white sweet, well, this is a sweet, like a Vidalia sweet Texas onion. And I have in my seasoning 2 tablespoons of poultry seasoning. Now, I used dry sage. I didn't purchase fresh. If you're using fresh sage, it's 2 tablespoons of finely diced sage. I used a tablespoon of the dry sage. And I have some black pepper. I have a tablespoon of garlic salt. So I'm not going to use regular salt because my garlic salt has the salt in it. The recipe that I've pulled up, it says 1/3 cup of butter, and I'm looking at my butter stick, and I'm going to put the whole stick in it, because that's just a waste of 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to melt a whole stick of butter in my skillet and saute my vegetables. Okay, now I'm going to start with my celery. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. We want the onions and the celery to be soft, so translucent. Now we're bubbling. All right, so I'll add my onions too. And we're going to cook these down like the celery and the onions. We want to get them translucent. Now you'll say, wow, that's a lot. Well, I usually feed anywhere between 10 to 15 people on Thanksgiving. One Thanksgiving, we were in our rental house right after Mark retired from the military, and Jamie was actually expecting, they had just come back from Japan, and she was expecting Joshua. So she was very uncomfortable that Thanksgiving. And Jaden was just a wee one, and everybody was at the house, and then all of a sudden other people decided to come. But I'm pretty sure we fed 30 people that Thanksgiving. And we had people sitting in the dining room, in the living room. My sister-in-law Janice and the boys came down from Missouri, and Ezra had gotten food poisoning on the way, and she was so afraid he had to have Thanksgiving from one of the bedroom doorways. It was funny. I'm sorry, Ezra, but that was funny. But it's fun. It's fun to cook for people. Okay, so as you can tell, these are starting to become translucent. Now, while this is cooking, I will tell you, I took this skillet the other day and I made a skillet of country cornbread. I did not put sugar in it. I did not want it sweet. A buttermilk cornbread. I baked it in the oven, let it cool, and I put it in a bag. I crumbled it up, and I left the bag open because I wanted it to become a little stale. The breadcrumbs and the cornbread need to be a little stale All right, now these are pretty translucent. I'm going to add the herbs and the garlic salt to this. Now, I am making this 2 days prior, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do the crock pot part today, and then you'll come back, and I'll show you when it's done, and we're going to put it in a baking dish, put it in the refrigerator. And Thanksgiving morning, we just take it out, uncover it, and bake it off in the oven, maybe 30 minutes, and it gives it that crusty top. Again, this is making my Thanksgiving day a little easier to, you know, you have all these things going and you lose residence space in your oven when you've got turkeys and casseroles and everything. So try to get as much prepared in advance and then use your oven for almost just a warm-up day. And that'll be a lot less pressure on you. All right, now we're going to turn this off and you're going to come over to the island with me and I'm going to show you what we do next. All right, now, you notice I have this gigantic bowl. Well, you need a bowl big enough to get all this mixed up in together. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put an entire bag, and this is an H-E-B one. It's a herb seasoned, it's breadcrumbs. And you want about 6 cups. And I'm sure there's a little bit more than that in here because I'm feeding, like I said, about 15 people this year. All right, so I have my breadcrumbs in there. And they're crummy, and I'm adding probably about 6 cups of cornbread. Now you see why I need this giant bowl? And we're going to mix this together. Now in a separate bowl, I'm going to add, oh, where's my eggs? Oh, they're there. I'm going to add 2 eggs. I'm going to add a can of H-E-B cream of chicken soup. For those that have allergies to MSG, H-E-B soups do not have MSG in them. The most popular brand that you would be buying does have MSG. So take that into consideration when you're cooking for a large crowd. That's something that someone may not tell you at the table and they have an allergy to it and it'll cause them really bad headaches. So now I am putting the whole can of the cream of chicken soup in. You could use cream of celery. That would be just fine. Okay, now I'm going to kind of mix this up a little bit so I can break the egg. Now remember, our seasonings are in our onions and celery. Now, at least 3 or 4 cups of broth. I think these are 4 cups. And this is an H-E-B chicken broth. I'm going to start with 1 and mix it in with our breadcrumbs and see how moist it is. And we'll go from there. We may have to add more. All right. Now let's dump this in on top of our breadcrumbs. And we'll stir this up. We'll see how wet it is. I can tell you right now I'm going to be adding more broth in here. So before we add any more of this, let's add our vegetables and our herbs in here. All right, now I can tell you I need to moisten this a little bit more. So I am going to pour this in until I figure out till I get that consistency. And then I'll tell you about how much I put in. That's going to be individual. So you may not put as much in or you may have to put more in. So right now I'm going to start with about a cup. We'll see how that works. Let's add about another cup. Yes, this is much better. Can you kind of hear it? It's kind of squishy. All right, now if you'll join me over to my crock pot area, I'll show you what we're going to do now. Okay, now we're at the crock pot. I'm going to turn the power on. And I'm going to cook this one on high because I want it done in about 2.5 hours. 2.5 to 3 hours on high, 4 to 6 hours on low. And I am going to use a liner. Now, if you don't have a liner, please spray the inside of your crock pot. I probably could spray the inside of this liner, but I'm not going to worry about that. It'll make your cleanup just so much easier. Okay, so now we're just going to plop this in, smooth it out a little bit, pop this lid on, and I'm going to set it for, we'll do 2.5 hours and we'll check it. Well, our dressing is finished and it's been kind of cooling a little bit. So what we're going to do with it now is put it in our baking dish. And I'm going to use most of my disposables. So Jamie says to put it in a baking dish. I may have to put it in 2. Okay, now I'll fill the other one up, but this is what it's going to look like. And then what we're going to do is cover it with foil and put it in the refrigerator. Now, Thanksgiving morning, we're going to take it out, or about an hour before dinner, maybe 2 hours. We're going to take it out, take the foil off. Jamie says put it in a 350-degree oven for about 30-40 minutes until the top is crispy. It may only be, depending on your oven, it may only take the 30 minutes. And take it out, and it's all done. So remember, Thanksgiving is a wonderful time of the year to just show our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, those that are in need, the love of Christ. And if you don't have a place to worship, please remember always to join us at any one of our Glad Tidings locations, one church, 5 locations, and to subscribe and share our videos. Hit the little button at the bottom. And we're also featured on Facebook and Instagram. God bless you. We love you. And a very, very happy Thanksgiving 2024.